Pivot tables in Excel are one of the most powerful tools for data analysis. They allow you to quickly organize, group, and summarize large amounts of information without modifying the original table or using complicated formulas. With just a few clicks, you can gain a clear overview of your data and extract key insights efficiently. We create a pivot table by selecting the data and choosing Insert, Pivot Table. Excel then creates a new table used for data analysis. New menu tabs appear: Pivot Table Analyze and Design. On the right side, there's a field list where we can see all columns from the source table. Below are 4 key sections: filters, used to filter the entire pivot table; columns, data is displayed in columns; rows, displayed in rows; values, here we define what we want to calculate: sum, average, count, etc. Choosing the type of calculation. We can format the data to make it more readable. Fields can be pivoted, rotated, and viewed from different perspectives. The order of fields is also important because it affects how the data is grouped and displayed. Filtering data. We remove a field by dragging it out of a section or unchecking it. Note: when creating a pivot table, there must be no empty rows or columns in the source table, as Excel will treat them as separate data ranges, tables. When we add a new employee to a non-dynamic table, the pivot table will not automatically update after refresh. This is because the range the pivot table references is fixed and must be manually adjusted each time. Instead, it is better to use a dynamic table, Insert Table. In this case, the range expands automatically. Now, when we add a new value to the source table and refresh the pivot table, the new values will appear. We can display values as a percentage of the grand total. Column names in the pivot table can be changed. Multiple fields can be added to the Values section. Expand collapse options allow expanding and collapsing groups of data. Dates can be grouped by years, quarters, months, or days. The order of fields in the rows section is important for how the data is displayed. If the field list disappears, right-click on the pivot table, then go to Show Field List. There is a field search option. Fields can be sorted for easier navigation. The settings icon contains options for modifying the layout of sections. Sorting data in a pivot table. Right-click on a column, then Sort. Conditional formatting allows visual highlighting of important data. Design subtotals. Here we can enable or disable subtotals and choose whether they appear at the top or bottom of a group. Grand totals, setting or removing totals at the bottom of the pivot table. Report layout determines how the table is displayed. Repeat all item labels repeats labels in every cell where they would otherwise be blank. Blank rows separate groups of data with an empty row for better readability. Banded rows automatically colors every other row. Double-clicking a value opens a new sheet with all the details that make up that value. Grouping salaries by range and step, and counting entries in each group. To ungroup, use the Ungroup option. Slicer, a visual filter for interactive data filtering. Calculated field, adding a new column through calculation only within the pivot table. Pivot chart, a graphical representation of data from the pivot table. You can select a bar in the chart and track the corresponding data.